Hello. Today we're going on a journey into the woods, but we're going to look deeper than just the trees. We're going to explore the hidden architecture of the living forest to understand the intricate connections that create a dynamic, living system. I'm excited to guide you through the basics of forest ecology and ecosystems. So, what exactly is a forest ecosystem? It's far more than just a collection of trees. Think of it as a bustling city, a complex system of interactions. At its core, an ecosystem is a community of living organisms interacting with their non-living environment. This entire system is defined and driven by two fundamental processes. First, the flow of energy, which is like a one-way street, starting from the sun and moving through the plants to the animals. And second, the cycling of nutrients, which is more like a city's recycling plant, constantly reusing finite resources like carbon and nitrogen. Our goal today is to understand these components and connections. To understand this system, we can start by dividing it into two fundamental categories. First, we have the abiotic factors. This is the non-living context, the physical and chemical elements. You can think of this as the stage, the setting where everything happens. Then we have the biotic factors. These are all the living organisms, from the smallest microbe to the largest bear. These are the actors on the stage. The magic of the ecosystem happens where the actors and the stage interact. Let's look at the stage first. The biggest abiotic factors are the overarching forces. Climate, temperature, and rainfall is the primary driver. It sets the rules for what kind of forest can exist in a location. Light from the sun is the ultimate fuel for the entire system, powering photosynthesis. And water, of course, is the lifeblood, the essential solvent for every living process. Zooming in, we have the physical foundation on the ground. Soil isn't just dirt. It's a complex, living foundation that provides anchorage for roots, a reservoir for water, and a bank of essential nutrients. And topography, the shape of the land, creates different neighborhoods, or microclimates. A north-facing slope will be cooler and moister than a south-facing slope, resulting in different plant communities. Now for the actors. We can categorize them by their job in the ecosystem. At the bottom, we have the producers, the plants. They are autotrophs, meaning self-feeders, creating their own food from sunlight. They form the base of the entire food web. Next are the consumers, or heterotrophs, meaning other feeders. This includes all the wildlife that gets its energy by eating other organisms, from the deer eating plants to the wolf eating the deer. But there's one group of actors that is absolutely critical, though often unseen: the decomposers. This is the hidden workforce of fungi and bacteria. Their vital role is to break down all dead organic matter, fallen leaves, dead wood, and animals. In doing so, they perform a process called mineralization, which unlocks essential nutrients and returns them to the soil, closing the loop. Without decomposers, the entire system would grind to a halt, buried in its own waste. A key takeaway today is that forests are not static, unchanging places. They are constantly in motion. This change is driven by two powerful concepts. First is succession, which you can see as this gradual upward curve, the natural, predictable change in species over time. The second is disturbance, represented by these sharp drops. Abrupt events that disrupt the system and, in many ways, reset the clock, starting a new period of succession. Let's break down succession. Primary succession is what happens on completely sterile ground, like a new lava flow or bare rock exposed by a retreating glacier. There is no soil to start with, so the process is incredibly slow, often taking more than 1,000 years. What we see much more often is secondary succession. This happens after a disturbance where the soil remains intact, like after a wildfire or a logging operation. Because the soil is already there, this process is much faster. A mature forest can regrow in about 150 years. So how does it work? After a disturbance, the first to arrive are the pioneer species. These are plants like grasses or aspen trees. They are tough, fast-growing, and love the sun. Their most important job is to stabilize and enrich the soil. Over time, they create conditions that allow other species to move in, eventually leading to what ecologists used to call a climax community. However, the modern view isn't of a static, final endpoint. It's more of a dynamic equilibrium, a shifting mosaic of patches that are always in a state of subtle change. Let's talk more about disturbance. A disturbance is any event that disrupts the ecosystem's structure and resources. This includes natural events like wildfires and insect outbreaks, as well as human-caused, or anthropogenic, disturbances like logging. The crucial point here is that in most ecosystems, disturbance is not a disaster. It is a vital, creative force, an engine of renewal that creates diversity and opportunity. Ecosystems are adapted to a disturbance regime, the long-term pattern of how often disturbances happen and how intense they are. This adaptation leads to ecological resilience, which is the ability to cope with these events. Resilience has two parts. Resistance is the ability to withstand the event, like a thick-barked pine surviving a low-intensity fire. And recovery is the ability to bounce back quickly after the event, like an aspen forest resprouting from its roots after a fire. A healthy forest is a resilient one. Now, let's look at the forest's internal metabolism, how it uses and reuses its resources. This is nutrient cycling. We're going to focus on the big three essential elements: carbon, the backbone of all life; nitrogen, essential for proteins and DNA; and phosphorus, which is key to energy transfer in cells. The carbon cycle is probably the one you're most familiar with. Carbon is absorbed from the atmosphere by plants during photosynthesis. It's then stored in their biomass, wood, leaves, and roots, and in the soil. It's released back into the atmosphere through respiration from all living things and decomposition. A forest that absorbs more carbon than it releases is known as a carbon sink. It's important to know that young, fast-growing forests sequester carbon the fastest, but old-growth forests are massive, long-term reservoirs, storing centuries of carbon. Nitrogen presents a challenge. The atmosphere is nearly 80% nitrogen, but it's in a gaseous form, N2, that plants can't use. The solution comes from the unsung heroes of the soil, microbes. Specialized bacteria perform nitrogen fixation, converting atmospheric nitrogen into usable forms like ammonium and nitrate. This is a fundamentally biologically driven cycle. The phosphorus cycle is different again. Its primary source is the slow weathering of rocks. Unlike carbon and nitrogen, there is no significant atmospheric component. This makes the cycle very slow and geologically driven. Because it's so slow to be replenished, phosphorus is often the limiting nutrient in a forest. It's the ingredient in shortest supply that constrains the overall rate of growth. Let's switch gears to water. Forests are active players in the water cycle. The canopy performs interception, catching rainfall and reducing the erosive force of storms. Trees act like giant pumps through transpiration, drawing water from the ground and releasing it as vapor into the atmosphere. And most importantly, the forest floor promotes infiltration, allowing water to soak into the ground and recharge the groundwater, acting like a giant natural sponge. These hydrological functions provide an incredible ecosystem service. The forest floor acts as a natural filter, purifying water as it soaks through. By absorbing so much water and releasing it slowly, forests regulate flow, reducing downstream flooding during wet times and maintaining stream flow during droughts. A famous case study is New York City, which invested billions in protecting its forested watershed because it was more effective and cheaper than building a massive new filtration plant. So, let's put it all together. A forest is a deeply integrated system. As you can see in this diagram, soil is the central hub, physically linking the water and nutrient cycles. Succession is the process that builds that soil and the forest's physical structure over time. And disturbance is the force that resets succession and reorganizes the entire system. You cannot touch one part of this web without affecting all the others. If there is one thing to take away today, it is this: a forest is not a place but a process. It is a dynamic, ever-changing system. To manage our forests effectively and ensure their health for the future, we must understand the entire system and its natural cycles of change. A healthy forest is not one where change is absent, but one that is resilient. Thank you. If you have questions, please stop into office hours or send me a message.